I wanted to do some tutorials on Atmel Studio for amateurs. Uh, Atmel Studio is kind of daunting at first. It's based on Visual Studios. I use Visual Studio for programming in C Sharp, and so this is a very similar environment, same, almost identical environment, and for programming your microcontrollers. And I use this AVR ISP Mark II programmer. You can see it pictured here. Basically a USB plugs into one end, goes into your computer, and then the other end has a connector that goes right into the demo board that I use, which is this one, reasonably priced, $31, maybe a little pricey for a demo board, but not bad. And it has a OLED display, USB functionality, shows how to use the USB stack, has an SD card reader, some built-in LEDs onto the board, and some temperature sensors and stuff like that. I'll be mainly concentrating on getting some detail, line-by-line code of driving the display, and also the USB stack, how to set up the USB, and maybe do some exploration around there. And I think this AVR ISP Mark II, they might be discontinuing it. I'll be doing some other videos. I have the ICE, so it has a built-in debugger, and it's like a little more expensive, but if you're looking for a cheap programmer, you can newbiehack.com has a really good demo on setting up Atmel Studio and using a real like $19 programmer, and his videos are excellent. That's where I started learning. I went through all his videos. He does an excellent explanation of how to get things up and running and how to program microcontrollers. But I wanted to do the next step up, which for me was using Atmel Studio and trying to learn the C language more in depth, and kind of how the professionals do it, because the way they have Atmel Studio. Here, let me fire it up first here, and I can show. All right, so we get the we're going to use a new example project, because there's a whole example project set up for that C3 demo board, and it shows all the capabilities of the board. The demo project, it'll the display will come up showing the Atmel icon, and then asked, if you press one of the switches, you can skip the demo intro, and it'll go right into displaying the sensor, temperature sensor, and how much the SD card is using in memory and stuff like that. And Atmel has so many different demo boards. There's a ton of them, but they're categorized by the device family, and then you can like do a search. I got like thousands of demos in here. Anyways, see if we can find enter C3 here. And you see a list all the different programs they have set up, demonstrating all the different types of boards. So I had to narrow down to the XMega 8-bit device, and then when you enter C3, it's right here, demo for the XMega C3 explained. And it shows a little picture of your demo board. And I'll load this up. It takes a while to load up. You got a lot of files with this program, but you have your Solution Explorer over here, just like Visual Studio, and a list of your files. There's lots of in this demo, covering you have your bitmaps for your display. In fact, I think they store the Atmel icon in this file, and there's some touch buttons on the board, touch sensitive type buttons. They have a library for that, and then they have some regular switches on the board, and you have your main program. And then at the bottom here, like you have your Solution Explorer over here, but they have this ASF, what was that, Atmel Software Foundation, I don't know the name, but basically it's all the services. It's set up for well, I'll show you. There's basically they have little mini tutorials in here, and they're kind of cryptic, the tutorials, but at least it's a starting point to get you going. But they just don't give a lot of explanation. Just some quick examples with some small chunks of code. But it's better. I guess it's better than nothing. I guess this is set up for professionals that already know what they're doing. But for an amateur, you just kind of flounder around on this stuff and you scratch your head. It's overwhelming at first. I mean, here you can see all the different services just for this demo. But this demo is like, you know, a lot of crap going on in this demo. And I'll just be concentrating basically on just like general purpose input output, how to blink an LED. There's a couple of LEDs built into the board. So I'll show you how the language is set up to do that, and basic inputs like reading the input from a switch. Is the switch depressed or not? And then the here the GFX monochrome system font. This is for driving the display, and you get your FAT system. That's for the SD card. I don't know much about that. We'll be going into that. Like I said, I'll be concentrating on the display and the USB. You got delay routines, just like kind of like a regular delay for microcontroller. I/O ports similar for input outputs. And then you get your USB down here, your USB stack, USB library, and they've got some nice, they've got some demos on how to set up like a HID keyboard and a HID mouse. Those are like pretty cool, and a lot of that complexity of USB is already handled for you. I mean, this stuff is complex enough without having to like rewrite a USB driver from scratch. But anyways, that's USB. Trying to find when you click on this, it'll give you some documentations of the functions and the structures and that, and then some of them will have the actual short tutorial in here. I think it's called the quick start guide. Click on that, show an example here. And it has the example workflow. Basically, I think this demo is just for drawing a line on the display, and how long, where the X and Y axes are, the line, where the line's going to start, how far along the line's going to be displayed on the screen, and then the type of pixel set, or if you were doing writing a string, the type of fonts that you would use, or if it was a graphical primitive, it would be like a bitmap that would be displayed, a circle, a rectangle, or maybe an icon like the Atmel icon that's displayed in this demo. And it'll show you the basically the workflow. Where you're going to start. You're going to initialize the board, then initialize the microcontroller clock, and then initialize the display, and then actually call a function that's going to actually draw the line on the display. And so this is all through this ASF. In this case, you have an ASF Explorer, kind of like a browser, so you can go through all the different demos they have for it. And then this button up here is your ASF wizard. You click on this, and this basically lists all the services that are available for your microcontroller. And you can see, like, you've got the monochrome graphic library service for the display. It has all the libraries for drawing the bitmaps and drawing the fonts, and your I/O general purpose input output, like I said, for driving your LEDs or reading your buttons on the board. And what you do is you'll click on what service you want to use, and then you click on the add button and it'll swap it over into here. And then when you click apply, then it'll take all these services that you've clicked and moved over here, and it'll load them onto the board, and it has all the files and dependencies just to get the service up and running. And then it gives you the list. It has, like I said, some of them have the cryptic tutorials. But at least with this, you have all your files in there set up for the board, so you can start playing around and with the actual like in this case, like the display we're going to play around with. But all the files are already loaded in, and so you can just get started on the basics, which are complicated enough without having to worry about missing files and stuff like that. And then what I basically do with when I have a project is I'll set up a file, and I'll start collecting all the data sheets that I'll be using. Like here's the schematic for the demo board, and so it goes in a lot of detail showing where each pin is wired to on the demo board. Where some are wired to the LEDs, some are wired for the display, and also, like in this case, because I'm concentrating on the display, I'll get the data sheet for the display that's used on the demo board. And it gives you an explanation of all the pins do. And I think that this display is driven by an SSD 1306 chip. So I'll also get the PDF for that. To get in more detail, to try and figure out how the display is driven, and how that relates to the programs that are in the Atmel Studio, in the their services and their tutorial. And so I basically get that set up, and I'll go back and go into the actual file here. Now, this is the main file for this demo, and I don't want to get too much into this right now, but yeah, you can just see initially when you start looking through this, it's pretty daunting. There's just lots of stuff going on here, and kind of advanced C programming, and a ton of files. And I'm running out of time, but I'll pick this up on the next video.